All right, guys, here we are out on Kentucky Lake. We are looking at the first full week of May is already behind us here. It's hard to believe that it's already almost Mother's Day. It's that time of year. Fish are all over the place. I'll give you kind of a rundown on what I've seen over the last few weeks. You know, after a lot of flooding, high water rains that we had this year, what happened to the lake was, you know, we got 16 inches of rain here at home a few weeks ago. It wasn't too long ago. The water has finally stabilized from that. The water came down pretty quick, but it's had that off-colored, murky color all spring long, it seemed like. And up here on the north end of the lake where I'm at, it actually, I think it affected a lot of those fish more so than other areas of the lake. And you'll see Kentucky Lake different times of the year. You know, you'll hear people talk about, well, south end's fishing better than north end's fishing better than the south end. And there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, fish will get, you know, there'll be certain sections of the lake where fishing's a lot better, and it just doesn't seem like fish were near as affected down south as much this year. It seems like all the tournaments, you know, not saying there's not fish being caught up north, but it seems like more of the better tournament weights are coming from the south end of the lake, which is, you know, gives the fish a little bit of a break up here. But a lot of the stuff that I typically find them on up here on the north end of the lake where I fish, let's say Paris North, or even Ken Lake North, is, you know, it was just a weird year. I mean, still had some great days, caught a lot of fish. You know, there's a lot of things working right now, but for the most part, I just personally feel like that a lot of those high flooded, you know, waters, a lot of current running down through here, they just bypassed a lot of the main lake stuff that they typically get on this end of the lake, because it is so open up here. And you know, I don't know what those smallmouth do. Do they go ahead and spawn? Do they just find different areas to spawn? I don't know. You know, the thing about the smallmouth is that they're just as new to me as they are anybody. I mean, I've lived here my whole life, but the smallmouth have always been here. There's just so many of them now, and you can definitely target them this time of year. But still a good many caught. I've had some good days, had some tough days. It all depends on weather conditions. And you know, like I say, we're the first full week through May now, and things are starting to change. So there's a lot of ways to catch fish right now. You could, you know, if you want to get up shallow and catch largemouth, you can still do that. The water has actually, it's holding about summer pool, high 359, and as I'm shooting this, they actually shot it up to like 359 and a half. So if you'll keep an eye on that, I've always said the magic number is closer to that 360 mark, especially on this end of the lake, because there's not as much cover in the water. But if you like to flip, there's definitely still time to do that. I mean, we're still early May. May is one of the better months. You know, they'll start in April, but you can still catch a good many fish up shallow if you want to. A lot of fish that are up. There are probably a good many bit of largemouth up spawning right now, and those largemouth get to spawning out, you know, on those shallower pockets and things. And what they'll do is they'll get up in these shady pockets this time of year, garden fry. You know, there's been a lot of fish, smallmouth and largemouth both, that have spawned. A lot of fry garden probably going on right now. So you could take a float worm, trick worm, frog, you know, poplar, things like that up shallow and catch them. A lot of different ways to catch them up shallow right now. Shad spawn, I look for that to be happening here pretty soon. That's one of those things that doesn't last very long in the morning, so you got to get out here at daylight and you kind of got to look for it. You look for those hard gravel banks and places where those shad typically spawn. But I've not been doing too much of that. I'm chasing these smallmouth. I love chasing the smallmouth in the spring here on the north end of the lake, especially. There's so many different places that they can be, and these fish are all over the place right now. You can catch some post spawners, you can catch some still spawning. I mean, still a good bit of fish that are spawning, I believe. I'm no expert at what, you know, different times of year, but I know for a fact that I've caught some fish that have been on beds this week. So when I'm targeting those fish, the number one bait to target smallmouth on this lake, I personally believe, just to cover water. If you're a guy that is coming into town, you've never fished here before, take you a 5/16 ounce finesse head from 6 Cents Fishing, put you a little 3.2 Divine on it, Kitech, Mega Bass, little swim bait. There's a lot of different swim baits out there. That 3.2 Divine swim bait from 6 Cents Fishing on a 5/16 ounce head, and you can pretty much catch fish anywhere on the lake. That is one of my go-to baits. It's easy to fish. Clients can get in the boat and just wind it around, and you catch a lot of big fish on it, and you catch numbers on it too. So the places that you're going to look, mouths of the creeks, the flats, you know, look in that 4 to 8 foot of water for those fish. You get those windy current, you know, when current's moving a little bit, TVA's pulling a little bit of water now. Cloudy, overcast conditions, those fish bite. I had some days this week where it's just been really, really good out here, and some tougher days. You see the sun shining behind me, Bluebird Day. It was a little bit tougher bite today, but you can take a little Dirty Jigs spinnerbait. This is their Finesse series, and I'll wind that thing around up there on those flats as well. You know, for those post spawners that are what these fish do, they go back there and spawn, and then they're a lot like largemouth. They'll group up, and they just group up in different places than what the largemouth typically do. And you can have some fun if you pull up on the right place, and you'll get multiple bites. You won't just catch one. They'll be in little groups. But that's another bait that I'll toss around up there. This is a Divine swim bait head, 7/16 with a Ignite Baits prey bait on the back. I'll wind that around out here. It's got a good little 3/0 hook in it. It's perfect for that bait right there. If you're looking for a bait to just wind around and get a swim bait bite, that's a good little bait for covering water. And then the spawners, the actual fish that are spawning, a Ned rig is hard to beat. This is the Boosa Ned from 6 cents. Smalley Candy, I believe is the name of that, or Smalley Snack. Green pumpkin, any of those colors like that on a Boosa head there. That's a 3/16, I believe. You can get on that east side, get on those current breaks, pea gravel points, little points that stick out. You know, those fish will spawn around those places. You can take your forward-facing sonar and get up in those areas and kind of see what's going on, and you can see a lot of those fish that are spawning. I'm not one of those guys that just gets in there and just tries to catch every single fish off the bed, but I definitely use it as a tool for locating them and finding them up there. And then, of course, a minnow style bait. I throw the Aussie, the 6 cents Aussie a lot. This one right here is the Ignite nicotine minnow. That's a cool little bait too. It's got the wings on top. It's a good little bait. A lot of different baits that you can throw, whatever you like for, you know, targeting those fish on forward-facing sonar on the minnow style baits. That's kind of it on the smallmouth. I mean, they're gonna wrap up here before long, but man, you get the right conditions, it can be really fun out here right now, especially those cloudy, overcast days, and you can wind that swim bait and that spinnerbait around and catch them. Good bit of largemouth that are going to start showing up here just any time. I've actually found a few places that's holding some fish right now. They're acting real funny. They're not as easy to catch as they should be, but when they start making their way out a little bit deeper, the 6 cents Crush, that's the 300. We're making a 400 and a 500 as well in that bait. Chartreuse and Blue on the Tennessee River, it's the only one you need. It really is. Chartreuse and Blue is the only crankbait you need. When those fish start moving out, they'll start moving to the mouths of the creeks. They'll start schooling up. You'll have to get on your Lowrance and idle around until you find them, but you can definitely find a few right now. Second bait that I throw out here for offshore fish, that's an Ignite Frenzy 5-inch, sexy shad color, 3/4 ounce head. That's probably the two baits. I've caught more fish on those two baits than anything in my boat when it comes to offshore fishing. I love doing that. I look forward to this time of year every year. But like I say, for the most part, your spawn is going to start wrapping up. There's going to be a good wave of fish that pull up here soon and start spawning. Largemouth are still up. There's a lot of fish that have already spawned. Obviously, we're into almost the second week of May, but the smallmouth will start wrapping up here before long, and fish are going to start transitioning and moving that way towards the main river. So everybody knows me, knows that I love to fish that way. I've still got days available coming up in, I've got a few days left towards the latter part of May, and then June is pretty well wrapped up, but I do have a few days. But one thing I want to talk about is, on your phone, on the App Store, download the Deep Dive app. And what you're going to do with this app, this is a cool little app. I've been using it for about a year now, actually. And you can actually go in there, depending on weather conditions, plug in stain, clear water, depending on depth range, and it's going to tell you what baits to throw. It's going to tell you what wind directions, what banks are holding the wind, current flow. It gives you so much info that you can find before you make a trip here to Kentucky Lake, or if you local guys, you know, if you're just wanting an extra tool to give you a little bit of an advantage before you get out on the water, download that Deep Dive app. And if you haven't come by the shop, come by Sonar Solutions. We're right there in Benton, Kentucky, right here. New electronic shop, fairly new guys. We're not new to it at all, but we've got Garmin, Lowrance, Humminbird, all the trolling motors, everything. Little install shop there, and a lot of you USA Bass guys that was here the last week or so, you came in. We appreciate your business, and a lot of local guys that are kind of grabbing on and coming to see us. But we appreciate your business. Come by and see us at some point. Come by, say hi, if anything. But that's kind of it in a nutshell on what's going on out here on Kentucky Lake. If you're looking for a trip, shoot me a message at info@brandonhunterfishing.com. I've got some dates available, and we will see you guys on the water.